gamers, Power Word Heal here, and today we're going to be talking about ranking in Classic World of Warcraft. So this is the new system that was added on Era a while ago, and then when SOD came out, they added it to SOD, and with the new Anniversary Realms, we are getting the same system. So it's the same on all three versions of the game, but it's new if you haven't done ranking in a bit, obviously. And this video is coming out now because on the Anniversary Realms, they've just released they've dropped the barrier where before you could only go to rank 11, right? Because they wanted to keep Blackwing Lair gear a bit relevant, and now you can go from rank 11 all the way to 14. So that's why this is coming out now. And I was talking to some people on stream the other day about ranking, and it made me realize that there's some misconceptions about ranking. And obviously not everybody's going to want to do it. We already made videos on is it worth it and stuff like that. But I think a lot of people still don't realize how different this is than the previous system. So even if you're not planning on ranking, if you just like watching the videos and stuff like that, it may be worth it to just check this out to see. Maybe this changes your mind, maybe it doesn't. It's not like a ranking propaganda video. Like you'll be fine as a healer without, your rank 14 weapon or whatever. But it's mostly just because I think people don't realize like how you can do it kind of like piecemeal, right? And it may not be necessarily as hard as people think. So with that, we'll kind of get into things, right? So what is the main difference between this system and the old system, right? So the old system was like a competitive system where you were competing against other people in your faction. So basically how the system works is there's rank 1 to 14, right? But then I think there was also 14 brackets back in the day. There may have been less, I'm not entirely sure. And basically each bracket gave you a certain amount of points for the week, right? If you were bracket 1, which was the highest bracket that you wanted to be in, right? You would get the most points towards your available rank. If you were in bracket 14, like you just got 15 honorable kills, the bare minimum, you were in the lowest bracket. And the brackets were percentile based, so only so many people could be in bracket 1, only so many people could be in bracket 2, and as the brackets, go down from bracket 1, more and more people can be in each individual bracket. It's a higher percentage of the player base, right? So this made it so that in order to, get the maximum rank the quickest, you basically need to be bracket 1. I'm not entirely sure. I never did like a full rank 14 grind, but I'm pretty sure you had to be bracket 1 like every week from the start, or a majority of those weeks at least. Right, and that was obviously problematic because what it's doing to determine what bracket you fall into is how much honor you get per week. So if somebody goes really crazy and they go 2 million honor 1 week, you basically have to chase that to get into bracket 1, right? It's not quite as complicated as simple as that, but you get the idea. So that's what made ranking back in 2019 like essentially a full-time job, because you were at the whim of the people on your server. People could break brackets. Even if they didn't break brackets, the caps were usually pretty high that people would set. They would set honor caps, quote unquote, artificially, which means that they would kind of agree to a certain amount of honor that people would get to. And the idea with that is that you make it high enough so that your average solo player would have a difficult time hitting that cap and breaking through the bracket, right? Because if you made it too low, then it'd be really easy for solos to constantly break brackets and stuff like that. So that's kind of the general methodology. How it works now is you just have to hit a certain amount of honor. And that's what this new honor calculator thing is here that you see. I'm just using this because we're doing a video, but there's also an add-on called Ranker that is really excellent for this. You can download it. It's super easy to download. It's on CurseForge. But basically, you see these like thresholds here. And how this works basically is each one of these thresholds corresponds to like a different amount of, it's like a different bracket, you can think of it as, right? So there seems to be less brackets now overall, but basically if you get the maximum amount of a threshold for any given rank that you're at, then that means you get the maximum amount of points per week. And what this calculator does is it basically tells you put in your current rank, your current progress, which if you can't see this, the ranker add-on tells you, I believe, because it doesn't tell you percentage-wise if you just open your character sheet. And so yeah, you put in your current rank, your current progress, and then you put in the amount of honor you got the week, right? And then it tells you what you're going to be next week. And it also gives you your rank and the max possible rank. So the max possible rank is always going to be if you put the slider all the way, if you get the maximum amount of honor you can for that given rank bracket you're in, right? So this says if we're rank 1, we go to rank 4, 60%, the max. But if we were to take it back, right, we would go to rank 3, 80%, and then you see rank 3, 0%, etc. Right? So there's basically different thresholds you can hit. Now, the thresholds are going to be very key here and important. These are basically like the old thresholds, right? But the great part about these new thresholds is that you can visibly see them a lot easier, right? Because they're the same for everybody based on the rank as long as you're level 60, right? If you're below level 60, a lot of these calculations may be off because they haven't really figured out everything pre-60 yet, so a lot of this stuff is for pre-60. Now, you can still gain honor and rank pre-60, but it's going to be harder to do the calculations and stuff like that. But yeah, basically everything is going to revolve around these certain thresholds. So the idea is that what you want to do is you want to hit these thresholds, or if you're gonna go beyond this, you want to hit the next one, right? You basically just don't want to have honor that's in between thresholds. For example, if you're going from rank 1, right, and you're trying to progress a little bit, if you're gonna stop at 11k honor here, right, then that's fine. But you don't want to stop at like 17k because all of this is ignored by the system. See how it says the red part will be ignored? Because it's all about hitting the milestones. You only get credit if you hit the milestones, right? So it's very kind of easy to see how that works, I think. So that's the number one part of the system, is you want to hit the milestones. But the real juicy part, in my opinion, and the thing that people tend to get confused about is how long does it actually take, or how much time per week am I going to have to put in to hit rank 14, right? And what we'll do there is we'll kind of go to the current state the current state of things, right? For people that are like already high ranks, we'll see like how much honor you're going to be getting at the high end. So the maximum amount of honor that you can get to contribute towards a rank, once your rank gets high enough, is 500k, right? Now, you can't get like 500k at rank 6. You see that the maximum at like rank 6 is 175k. So depending on the rank, they will have different maximums. But once you hit rank 11, the maximum opens up to 500k and it never goes higher. So the most you're ever going to have to get in a week, or the most you ever could theoretically get to progress your rank the fastest is 500k. Now 500k, I won't lie to you, is a lot of honor. I'm going to be talking to you from the perspective of a solo player, because I feel like obviously if you guys are doing like, organized PvP groups, this is going to be a lot easier for you to do, right? So you're not even really going to be concerned about watching this video or, any of this stuff. You're just going to hit your cap effortlessly, right? Because you can pump out some pretty good honor per hour in like a really strong AB or Warsong pre-made, especially if the weekend is up. However, for everybody else who isn't really doing that, or they're trying to do it on 2 characters, right? So not really going to be able to play like a maximum effectiveness on both characters. That means that you're probably going to be doing AV, because AV is going to be the best honor per hour to grind as a solo. And that's because you basically get the same amount of honor per hour if you win or lose, right? You'll get a little bit more if you win sometimes. You get marks if you win, so there's a little bit more incentive there. But realistically, it doesn't really make that much of a difference in most cases, where in Warsong Gulch, you can literally get farm 3-0 for like 10 games in a row, right? And then the only honor you're getting from those games, essentially, is the honor from kills, right? So you're not getting any bonus honor or anything like that. And if you're on an honor weekend, that means that you're not even like getting the bonus from a Warsong weekend or something like that. So I would rank it AV is the best, Arathi Basin is the second best, and Warsong is the third. I would not try and do this as a solo in Warsong. I think doing it as a solo in Arathi Basin is possible if you have a lot of time on your hands, but you're probably going to want to do some of the harder shifts in AV, or at least do a portion of the week in AV and then switch to AB. And if you're definitely like, if you're working like a full-time job completely and you have a lot of other responsibilities, like if 40 to 60 hours of your week is taken up by, just things that you have to do at least, right, then, or more, then the only way I feel like you're going to really be able to make this work is by doing AB. And you're going to have to play a lot. So, let's break down the 500k, right, since that's kind of like the worst case scenario thing, right? So 500k, I would look at it honestly as about like 10k honor per hour. Okay, so you're looking at like 50 hours of AV. Now it's probably gonna be better than that for you, right? But we're trying to go absolute worst case here, right? So the reason why I say 10k honor per hour is, let's assume like 15 to 30 minute AV game. So maybe the average is like 22 minutes or something, right? And the average honor per game, let's say, is around 3k, maybe a little bit over that. So basically, you're getting like approximately 3 games in an hour, maybe a little bit less, right? But you're also getting honor from like kills and stuff like that in the battleground. So that's not being taken into account by the honor you get at the end of the AV screen. You're also getting marks, right? So when you combine everything together, I think it's a safe assumption that you're going to be, on average, probably getting around 10k. Some hours you might get 9k, some hours you might even get 8k, some you might get 12k. And as a healer, I think this is a very safe estimate. If you're playing like a DPS, like I'm doing it on my rogue and a druid, and I can already tell like my rogue gets a lot more honor than my druid because I'm able to get solo kills, right? Getting solo kills in the BG is kind of huge. And it's not just really about solo kills, it's about the proximity of the kill. So if you're near a bunch of other players, the honor basically gets split from that kill that you get on somebody, even if you do all the damage, it seems like. So what you really want to do is you want to try and find areas where you can basically camp and gank people and get 1v1s with people, kill them, get the max amount of honor. If you kill like a rank 11 player or a rank 10 player, it's around like 300 honor for that kill. Right, and you obviously get more honor the higher the rank the player is. So as the weeks kind of progress and more people are ranking up and getting higher, you're going to be getting more and more honor per kill, is sort of the idea, right? And so you can push the honor higher than 10k if you're like a damage class, or maybe if you're a priest, you go shadow priest for these, right? And you try and kill people in mid, stuff like that. Those are all viable strategies. But if you're not doing something like that, if you're doing it more like, you just kind of like run north, like you're doing like a less active play style, which is still fine, you are going to probably get around 10 to 11, like I'd say 9 to 11k honor, right? Now, I mentioned the difference there between active and kind of non-active play style. It's fine to do it in a non-active way, right, and have it be more chill, but I will warn you that they do ban people for AFK, so you can't be like AFK in the tunnel, right? You also don't want to do the glitch where you're AFK off the map. Tons of people get banned for that. Bunch of people, some guy in my guild was doing that on 5 characters. He's been banned. I think it was like a 2-week ban or something like that. So just play the game, be legit, don't grief. Like, I'm not saying you have to be there like sweating your balls off like every moment of the battleground, right? But don't be like flagrantly AFK, like doing nothing in the BG, or you probably will get reported, or you will get banned. They may have an automated system. Other people are reporting you will probably trigger it. So I'm not advocating for that, but I'm just saying there are differences. You can play it more active and get more honor, and it's more effort, or you can kind of just go north or go south depending on what faction you are. Try and especially if you're a healer, that is not a bad thing to do if you can make it down there, because you need heals to clear out a lot of the NPCs in the enemy faction's camp, and then obviously you need heals for like Van and Drek respectively, right? So that's kind of like some thoughts on just like how to get the rank. But yeah, so I'd say you're looking at like 50 hours in like a worst case scenario to get 500k. But the question is, do you need 500k, and how many weeks do you need 500k, right? Because what people are saying all the time is, if you go on the subreddit right now, is they're like, 500k, I'm going to do that for 3 weeks, I'm going to do that for 2 weeks, or I don't know how I'm going to be able to do that for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, right? And you really don't need that much honor, right? The 500k thing is just to get it the fastest, and we're going to talk about paths to get the fastest rank 14 at the end of this video. But I kind of want to talk to you about how the minimum works, right? And then we'll compare that to other things. So for example, let's say that you've gotten to rank 11, okay, prior to this week, right? So you're rank 11 this week, and you're unsure if you want to push to rank 14, because rank 11 was kind of annoying, but you got it done. Wasn't that bad, right? And now you're like, do I really want to go to 14, right? I don't think I have the time to go to 14. So let's look at the minimum amount you need to make progress. And this is really simple, okay? So basically, using this calculator, you can go to any rank, right? And the minimum amount to make progress in that rank will always be this, okay? Right? It'll always be the first threshold here. It'll always be the first one. So no matter what, like, in other words, if you keep getting 256K, right, every week at rank 11, so it says the first week you do it, right, you'll be 50% rank 11. Okay, so we just change this. And then you see the next week you get it, you'll be rank 12. So it takes 2 weeks to go from rank 11 to rank 12 if you do 250K each week, right? Then let's go to rank 12. Okay, so rank 12, you see that the minimum goes up. So this is the minimum to get progress, but this is the only thing you'll ever have to do to actually be forward moving. Okay? So again, 40% into rank 12, right? So we put this here. So 80% into rank 12 into the next week, right? And then if you do another 337K, you'll get to rank 13, right? So you could do 3 weeks at 337K to go from rank 12 to 13. So you can do it this way, right? The only thing is it's going to take longer in the sense of taking more honor overall, right? But if you can only get a smaller amount per week, like if that's your hard limit, you absolutely can do it like this, right? So you're going to have to be playing for a longer period of time, which means overall you're going to have to get a lot more honor, right? But the way it's spread out for you is more manageable, if that makes sense. Okay? And the reason why that is because you basically get more ranking points like the higher you go into this. So if you don't just do the bare minimum and you do the max, you get like more ranking points, which means that typically that's going to progress you faster and you're going to need less honor overall for the entire duration of your rank, right? So if you do it slower and you only get the minimum per week, right, you don't have to hit as high of a cap per week, but you're going to have more weeks, and not only more weeks, but you're just going to have to get more honor over the course of your grind entirely. Okay, so I think that's pretty easy to kind of like conceptualize and understand. And we'll go to the last one here, rank 13. So for rank 13, right, let's say you're 0% rank 13, okay? So the most you have to go is 418K basically to get progress into rank 14, okay? And the thing is, so it's 34%, right? So it's 34%, and it goes to 68%, so that's 2 weeks, and then 68%. So it would take 3 weeks to go from rank 13 to rank 14, getting the minimum, right? So you can see that towards the end, it kind of becomes a lot, right? Because the idea is that 418K is not really that much different than 500K, right? And you're getting like a lot worse returns for it, quote unquote, right? In other words, like it's, you're doing a similar amount of honor, but you're not getting that much progress for it, right? So I think as you get towards like the final ranks in the system, that's really where you want to spend your time getting the high point values, right? And this is noted when we look at some of the paths here in a second, when we're going to talk about the paths. But first, I just want to talk about decay, okay? Because that's the other factor of this that's different from 2019. So basically in 2019, if you didn't play for a week, right, you would actually lose rank. Now, that is no longer the case at all. So if you just, like, let's say you got to rank 11, 0%, well, let's say you got to, rank 11, right, and you just stop playing for 2 weeks, so you're not playing the next 2 weeks, right, but then you want to do your rank grind from there. You can absolutely pick up right where you left off. You don't get penalized at all. It's going to be the same, like, your time to go from rank 11 to 14 is going to be the same as anybody else's. It's just obviously they're 2 weeks ahead of you, right? But in terms of the total time to finish the ranking grind, yours is going to be the same as theirs, as long as you go on the optimal rank 11 to 14 path, right? So decay is no longer a problem. Now, when they made the announcement for the honor system originally, the new one, they announced that there was no decay from rank to rank, but what it sounded like is that there would be decay within ranks, right? So in other words, there was no decay from rank 11 to rank 10. You couldn't lose it if you were 0% rank 11. But if you were 50%, or let's say you were 50% rank 11 and you didn't play, it sounded like you could decay, right? Which would make things a little bit more annoying because then you still kind of have to play consistently in between a rank, which can be hard for people. However, I've basically disproved this, and somebody had commented on my channel in the last video that I did about this, and they had kind of disproven it as well on their character. I couldn't independently confirm. I just had to take it, obviously, on that person's word at the time, so I was hesitant to, proliferate the information. Not that I think people, malevolently lie, but you just never know, right? Because I don't know, obviously, all the people who are communicating in my comments, super well. And it's you could easily be mistaken or something like that. So, somebody had mentioned this before. I don't want to say, I didn't discover this, is what I'm saying, right? This has been discovered before, but I basically confirmed it on my own druid because I ranked him to rank 7 20%, and then, a while ago, right, a long time ago, and then I was going to potentially progress him to 11 to grind for 14 if I felt like it. And when I came back to him, he was still ranked 7 20%. He hadn't lost a single point of progress within the rank. So it seems like there's actually no decay within ranks either. And as long as that holds true for the higher ranks, then you can basically, you can postpone this grind and then resume it for as long as you want, whenever you want, which is actually really cool. The only thing you have to keep in mind is hitting the proper thresholds, right? But once you do that, you can take 2 weeks off and then hit the next threshold. Okay, so that's actually really cool if it's done like that. And it seems to be. It's possible that they are, how the system works, rank 11 and above is different than how it works sub rank 11 maybe for the epic gear. So maybe you don't get decay below rank 10 or something like that, or below rank 11, but you do get decay after that. Who knows, right? It's kind of hard to say, but I don't think it would work that way. So I think you guys are pretty safe. I'm not really going to be able to test this because obviously I don't want to not gain honor on a week, right? On my characters that I'm going 14 on. So yeah, that's some information about Decay, and it's kind of counterintuitive to how they explain it because it sounds from their post like you will decay within a rank, but that doesn't seem to be the case, at least not for the lower ranks, right? So I'm pretty sure you can just kind of go all the way, by just stopping wherever and then resuming, which is really cool. So that's about Decay and the paths, right? So let's open up this image right here. So this is the optimal rank 14 paths from rank 11 to rank 14. Now, the reason why it's from rank 11 to rank 14 is because rank 11 is the rank that everybody was held up on, basically, right? You couldn't progress faster than 11 or further than 11 until this week, and now it's open. So these are all the ranking paths you can go to 14. Now, obviously, there's more of these, right, in the sense that you could get 500k every week. That is technically a different path, I guess, but it's just pointless to do that, right? It's just wasted honor. And there's also more of these in the sense that, if you didn't get to rank 11 0%, then obviously things are going to be different for you once you kind of get up to these high ranks, right? So, for example, if you now you're not capped 11. So if you did some weird system, or if you did some weird thing where you're now next week you're rank 11 20%, and this isn't going to be accurate for you, right? So this is only accurate if you're currently, or if at any point you will be, rank 11 0%. And you can basically see what I was talking about with the how the honor gains. It's they matter more the higher rank you are, right? It's more important to get the higher ranking numbers, the higher rank you are, because you can see you can actually do 256k on the first week to rank 11, on the first week of you being rank 11, and get rank 11.5, and then still get rank 14 in the same time as somebody who does 500k in the first week, right? But you see it in the later part that all of these on the last 3 weeks there's a 500K, a 418, and a 418. So that's like mandatory for all the weeks, right? It's really the only differences are in the starting 2 weeks, right? And that's because the honor is less important when you're lower rank. Like, it's less important to get the maximum amount per week on the or like a high amount per week rather on the lower end of the ranking spectrum than it is in the higher end. Okay, so I'm going to be doing this path because it's just the least honor overall. And yeah, so it's 256K for this week, right? So it's a really easy week. Then 500K the next week, 500K the next week after that, and then 418 and 418. Now, the next week is supposed to be, according to calculators, Alterac Valley weekend. Now, we don't know if it's going to be implemented yet, and I think we won't really know until basically like tonight, because whatever weekend it's supposed to be this weekend should go off tonight. Now, it's possible, I haven't checked the calendar, so there may not be one, because I think also that it skips one at some point, right? So there's like a week off. This might be the week off. So if this is the week off, then we won't know until next week, basically, right? If like what's going on here. So yeah, it's going to be hard to know, but if we do get Alterac Valley weekend for next weekend, then this 500K is going to be really easy to get. I believe you get 50% more honor from objectives, which is huge. So you're still going to have to play a little bit before the weekend, probably, in most cases, but you can really kind of go hard in the weekend, and this shouldn't really be that hard. So that would mean that the hardest week is going to be week 3, right? And you really have to, buckle down and get 500K for that. And, well, if you want to progress at max, again, you don't have to progress at max. And, yeah, so outside of that, it kind of gets easier from there, you see. And 418K, it doesn't sound like it's that different from 500K, right? And it's not that much different. However, if you have like a lot of responsibilities, if you're like 40 to 60 hours, like I said, doing something else during the week, this difference is going to be huge, right? Going from 500, like needing 80K less honor, or a little bit more than 80K less honor, is going to be an insane difference. And again, you don't even technically, actually, I think you do need 480K minimum, yeah, once you're in 13, yeah. So getting this is going to be a lot easier than getting this, for sure, right? And like I said, the first week is easy. The second week, hopefully AV weekend, right? So you only have one truly like really terrible 500K week if you're playing solo and you've got the 40 to 60 hour work week or 40 to 60 hour of responsibility, right? And after that, it becomes definitely a bit more manageable. You still have to play a lot during these weeks, don't get me wrong, but it's more manageable. Also remember, assuming we don't have Decay, this doesn't have to be done consecutively. So if you have like a really busy week, right, you can just not do it. And then if you have a week that's less busy, you can just kind of go ham and get it then, right? You could technically also wait for the weekends to come around. Like, assuming we are getting the Battleground weekends, then you could just wait for, for AV weekend to rotate around, or the Battleground of your choice, right, that you want to do. And then you just get the honor during that Battleground, and it'll be easier, right? So there's a lot of paths to do this if you're kind of like willing to take a little bit longer and stuff like that. And if you don't care about getting it instantly, it's not as necessarily impossible as you might think, right? And I just, I want to impress that upon people. So if you like PvPing, I think it's going to be very easy for you, especially if you like PvPing in a Battleground. It's going to be very easy for you to get rank 14 at some point, because you're kind of going to be wanting to PvP anyways, and there's just some weeks you'll probably be able to go hard, right? And as long as you can go hard some weeks and there's no decay, eventually you will basically wind up there. Now, the scenario that this is a little bit misleading for, I would say, is the people who don't like PvE and don't have a lot of time, don't like PvP and don't have a lot of time to play, right? Because this is where it kind of becomes a little bit of a problem. And I was using this example with the person I was talking to in my chat the other day. So Let's say you're rank 8, and this is just to give an explanation of how the system works when you get more points per week versus when you get less. So let's say you're rank 8, and let's say you get the maximum amount of honor per week, right? Which rank 8 is 337k and change. So that would bring you from rank 8 0% all the way to rank 10 20%. That's a huge jump, right? So let's see how much honor you would have to get from rank 8 to rank 10 20% if you don't do it in 1 week and get the large chunk of honor. So let's do it getting the minimum amount, right, per week to progress through a rank. Okay, so we're still at rank 8, right? So we're going to go rank 8, 110k, right? Because this is the minimum amount you can get. So remember, we're at 337k to go from rank 8 to rank 10, 20%, right? So rank 8, 0% to rank 10, 20%, 337k. So it's 100k just to get to rank 8, 60%. Okay, that's fine. We'll get the minimum amount next week as well, right? So we're 60% for the next week. And we need another 110k to get to rank 9, okay? So that's already 220k just to get from rank 8 to rank 9. Okay, now we're at rank 9, 0%. Okay? And you see that to get from rank 9, 0% to rank 9, 60%, you need 142k. So we're already at 220k, right? Because 110k plus 110k. Now we have 142k on top of that. Okay? So we have 220k and then 142k. All right, so 360k and change at this point to get to rank 9, 60%. And remember, we were already ranked 10, 20% by just getting 337k in that other week, right? So now we're like 20, 22k higher. More, it's 20, 22k more honor to get a lower rank, essentially, right? This is going the slow way. And then if we go to 226k, we get rank 10, but it's only rank 10, 10%. So basically, in this example, remember we had 220k before, and now we have 256k now. So it's like 246k to get to basically the same spot we were before, when before we only had to do 337k. And we're not even technically the same spot we were before because we're 10% off, right? So this does show that if you're doing the bare minimum per week, not only is it going to take longer in terms of number of weeks, but the amount of honor you're going to have to get overall is a lot more, right? Especially if you do this over all the weeks going up to 14, that would be an insane amount more honor. Even if you start doing it just in the ladder ranks where you need more honor, it's still going to be a lot, okay? Now, for a PvP player that likes PvP but can't play like an insane amount per week, this doesn't really matter, right? Because you're going to be PvPing anyway. So who cares, you know? Like I said, that's why as a PvP player, as long as you can find some time during the later portion of the grind to really go ham, it should actually be kind of easy for you to get rank 14 in a sense. Like, it's going to take a long time, but it's not going to feel like a grind because you like playing the game like this anyway. You like being in Battlegrounds, right? But if you're a PvE player exclusively and you don't really like Battlegrounds specifically, you know, and you can't stand, especially AV tends to be people's, not their favorite battleground, right? But so if you really hate Battlegrounds, you really hate AV, well, yeah, I guess most people don't like AV, then it's going to be probably pretty mentally taxing because you're going to be doing essentially a lot of extra work, right? You're not going to have to hit the highest cap per week, but you're going to have to do it for way longer. And not only are you going to have to do it for way longer, but you're just having to get close. You're still having to get a lot of honor, right? Even if you're not hitting the maximum caps, you're still going to have to hit a lot of honor. And you're not getting very much progress. So overall, it's going to require you to do a lot more honor than somebody who just went like the fast way, if that makes sense, right? And again, for somebody who just doesn't like Battlegrounds and stuff like that, doesn't like PvP, then yeah, that's going to be a tough sell for them, right? To continue to play, like, you know, many, many more weeks in the future to incrementally progress. It's just going to be a tough sell. So yeah, I just wanted to add that at the end. It's a little bit sobering, but I want to give you guys the reality of the situation. Right, I don't want to like be like, oh, it's so easy to get rank 14. You know, it's definitely way easier than it was before. And like I said in the start of the video, I think it is easier than a lot of people think, because it really is about just kind of, you know, activating yourself at the right time, right? And focusing all your energy towards the later portion of the grind. And if you can do that and you have a decent amount of time, then, you know, I don't think it'll be that hard for you. So I don't want people to think like, oh, it's going to be like so impossible to get, or it's going to necessarily take forever. But if you are somebody who really has not much time to play and you don't like PvP, I think that's where it becomes a big problem for you, right? And if you try to start on the journey at that point, you may hit like a wall, and I wouldn't want that to happen, because then it feels like you wasted a bunch of your time doing something you don't want to do, right? So I don't want to mislead anybody here, and that's why I'm adding this kind of last section in where we really break it down, because yeah, I just don't want anybody to get stuck. Like, if you like PvPing, again, it doesn't matter, even if you end up not being able to get rank 14 because you liked PvPing all along anyway, right? But if you don't like it and you think you're going to maybe have a chance, and, you know, you work like a 60 to 80 hour week and you really hate PvP, and then you get to like rank 12 or 13 and you're just like unable to progress because you just have, it's too much time, and like that's going to feel terrible. So I just want to be straight up with people. And like I said in the other video, I don't think this is a super big deal for healers, but you know, it is a nice weapon, and yeah, if you enjoyed anyway, get it. If you don't, not a big deal. Hopefully, this kind of illuminated some of the aspects of it, where if you were thinking of getting it and wanted to get it but didn't think you could get it, you're like, oh, maybe it's more doable now, right? Or if you were kind of like, you know, I have a lot of responsibilities, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do it, and I don't really like PvP, and you saw this and you're like, oh, okay, I'm not even going to bother now, I'm not going to waste my time. That's also good as well, right? So that was the point of this video, to kind of help out people on both sides of that fence, because I think everybody else basically knows if they're going to do it or not yet. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this was helpful. Sorry it was a bit like ranty, but or not ranty, I guess, but just long-winded, but there's kind of a lot of components to this. Even though the new system is a bit simpler, I would say, than the old system, there are some nuances. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this helped people, and if it did, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. That helps me. Thank you guys so much, and I will talk to you guys next time.